talking about turtles, but not just any turtle. This one, the leatherback sea turtle. The leatherback sea turtle is the biggest of all the turtles, and it's actually one of the biggest reptiles in the entire world. It can measure up to 2.4 meters long and weigh up to 2,000 pounds.
Unlike most turtles, leatherback sea turtles don't have a hard, bony shell. While their shell is still protective, it's more flexible, and it feels sort of rubbery to the touch. That's why we call them leatherbacks.
One of the reasons why leatherbacks are such interesting creatures is because of how long they've been on Earth for. This kind of sea turtle was around at the time of the dinosaurs. That means that they have existed on Earth for over 100 million years. And yet, despite having been around for so long,
Leatherback sea turtles are now classified as an endangered species.
there are only about 35,000 nesting females left in the world today, and that's compared to about 115,000 back in the 1980s. So as you can see, their numbers are decreasing really quickly. Now before we get into why this creature is endangered, first, let's talk about how they live. Where do they live exactly?
There are leatherbacks in both the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. But today we're going to focus on the turtles that live near you, in the Atlantic Ocean.
All leatherbacks have two kinds of homes, where they feed or find food, and where they reproduce. Those two places can be very far apart, and the journey to go from one to the other is called a migration. The waters around Newfoundland and Labrador are one of the places where they find food. And what do they feed on, you may ask?
Jellyfish! And they eat a lot of it too. They will spend 3 to 4 years in the area just to eat the jellyfish. And they do this to build up their energy. Once a leatherback is done with its feeding period, it becomes time for the breeding season. For that, it has to swim to its nesting grounds.
Which are far, far, far.
They're all the way down here, mostly along the coasts of South and Central America. But some nest in other places too. Along the shore, the female turtles will find warm sandy beaches where they can lay their eggs. To make their nest, they dig a hole into the sand using only their flippers. Mothers will usually lay about 100 eggs in each nest, and they can make between 7 and 11 nests per season. If you add that up, that's about 1,000 eggs for one female.
Once the eggs are laid, the mother will cover them up with sand to hide them from predators. And then she will return to the sea and leave the eggs on the beach. About 2 months later, the eggs will hatch, and the baby leatherback sea turtles will dig their way out of the sand and make their way to the water. In the ocean, they will grow up into adults and repeat the cycle of feeding and nesting and feeding and nesting and so on. You may be wondering, since the leatherbacks lay so many eggs, why are there so few of them in the world?
Well, it turns out, for every 1,000 eggs that are laid, only about 2 will actually make it to adulthood and be able to reproduce. First of all, not all the eggs will actually hatch. Then the baby hatchlings, before they can make it to the water, will have to watch out for birds or crabs that are going to be trying to eat them as they make their way. Once in the water, they face new kinds of predators. While they're still small, they can be eaten by bigger fish. And once they grow big, there are less things that can eat them, but they're still not safe. Their biggest threat is actually us.
Humans are a big threat to leatherback sea turtles. In Newfoundland and Labrador, there are 3 main threats that you should remember. The first one is called entanglement and bycatch. That's just a fancy way of saying that sometimes turtles get caught in fishing nets, either active fishing nets or nets that have been left out at sea. The second one is ship strikes. Now that's when a turtle will accidentally get hit by a passing ship. And the third danger is marine debris or pollution. Now by that I mean the trash that gets left out in the ocean, or sometimes trash on the beach that gets swept away into the water. That can be really harmful to leatherback sea turtles. Not only can they get caught in it or scraped by it, but they can also sometimes eat it. Remember how turtles like to eat jellyfish? Well, let's think about a plastic bag floating in the water. Kind of similar looking, right?
In the water, a plastic bag can look very similar to a jellyfish, but plastics can't be digested properly, which means they will just stay in their stomach. The sea turtles will feel full, but they won't actually have eaten any real food. This is something we call pseudo-satiety. And unfortunately, it can lead to turtles dying of starvation.
So yeah, leatherback sea turtles eat plastic. We don't want that to happen. Now that we've talked about some problems, how about we talk about some solutions? There are new technologies that are being developed in the fishing industry to make sure that turtles don't actually get caught in nets. One of these things is called a turtle excluder device. Now these are used to ensure that turtles and other large animals are able to escape nets if they venture into them. Some nets have LED lights on them, and that's used as a warning device. So it tells the leatherbacks to stay away, but it doesn't affect the fish, which is what we're trying to catch. Another thing that can really help is cleaning up trash. Beach cleanups, community cleanups are so great. You can go out to the beach with your family, clean up some trash, and feel good about yourself. Other ways to help include cleaning up old fishing gear that gets left out in the water, reporting turtle sightings. That's really important because we need to know where they are in order to help them. And the last thing is talk about it. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone about the things that you learn about these creatures. The more people know, the more we'll be able to help them. Hopefully, with our help, in time the population will increase enough that it'll no longer be at risk. That's what we're going for.